It's the Michael Patrick Leahy Show, broadcasting live from downtown Nashville. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
And welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show, our flagship news site, TennesseeStar.com, TennesseeStar.com, all the great stories there. You can also listen to us on the John Fredericks Radio app. See us on YouTube. Just type in the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. There we are, live in living color. How about that? And of course, on the John Fredericks Radio Network, which now has, John says 22 stations, and he's apparently bought 9 more. How about that? So I guess I would put him up to 31. Wow. We'll see. They've got to go through all the FCC process on that. But you can listen to us in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and Atlanta and all across Virginia. We've got 8 or 9 stations there. A whole bunch of stations in West Virginia. And, of course, 2 stations in my home state of Tennessee, 760 AM WENO in Nashville, 730 AM KQPN in Memphis. If you want to weigh in, we would love to hear from you. Our number, got to write this down, 615-649-8477, 615-649-8477. Tell our producer, Patrick, where you're from and what your topic is. My topic right now has to do with the reaction of the regime media to the clear world leadership that President-elect Donald Trump is conducting and doing a fabulous job of it. Here is, of course, a CNN anchorette along with Scott Jennings, who is a terrific conservative on CNN, talking about, well, how surprised they were at how presidential Donald Trump appears. Here we go, clip 24.
I thought he was very measured, and I thought his overall interview, by the way, was really good. The tone was good. He's clearly focused on the future, not on going back into the past. That was a direct quote from him. He's focused on immigration. He's focused on bringing down prices in energy exploration and energy production in the United States. These are all the priorities that he ran on. So I think his projection of that, about how his focus and his attention is going to be spent, was good. On immigration specifically, I thought we got a very measured, reasonable, and realistic Donald Trump. He knows it's a problem he's got to solve. He knows he needs to work with Democrats, especially in the Senate, to get something done. And he knows the American people are tired of inaction on this. And so I thought he hit all the right notes. I mean, he talked to Kristen Welker for over an hour. We only got to see a portion of it, but I watched the entire thing. I thought from soup to nuts, Donald Trump had a really good weekend, both from his trip to Europe and then also on this NBC interview. If he can sort of maintain this kind of problem-solving posture, he's going to get off to a really good start in January.
I do want to touch on what you bring up really quickly before we go. This weekend trip where we saw him in France, meeting with Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, meeting with President Zelensky from Ukraine. Scott, I know I talked to you the day it was happening, but it was striking because he is not the sitting president. He is the president-elect right now, and yet here he was meeting with these world leaders and really looking quite presidential over the weekend.
Yeah, the country of the United States has moved on. The world has moved on. Donald Trump doesn't take office until January, but you can see the rest of the world is already treating him like he is the power center of the United States. And so I'm glad he went. This cathedral reopening is a huge deal to so many people around the world, Catholics, Christians. It's a historical moment. It was also a chance for him to talk to some of our biggest allies, people he's going to have to be coordinating with on some of these problems that Joe Biden is leaving behind. Donald Trump is hitting the ground running. I mean, he's already...
He really is, and did a great job on that. I love Scott Jennings. He's really taking it to everybody else. Look, if CNN wants to actually stick around and have ratings, they need to have more Scott Jennings. They ought to call it the Scott Jennings Network, don't you think? That makes sense to me. Okay, so I have a little bit of breaking news. It's weird. I'm not sure it really is breaking, but I'm looking at this. You know, there's this left-wing operation media outlet called The Nation. I'm talking far, far left. They've put this thing out there. I'm just going to tell you what they're saying and then get a reaction to it. This is by Chris Lehman at The Nation. Headline: President Biden should issue a blanket pardon of undocumented immigrants. Protecting Trump's enemies from prosecution just reinforces the idea of politics as retribution. Instead, Democrats should be defending his most vulnerable targets. Okay, so now the nation that's basically a communist Marxist operation, right? But this might be what you call a trial balloon. The logistics of how you would do this, with their 10 million undocumented immigrants, he would issue a pardon. I don't think the president actually can pardon a non-citizen. And how the mechanics of this would be just crazy. It would be, I think, a legal non-starter. Because what would happen is, here would be the logistics of this. President Biden would issue a blanket pardon to 10 million undocumented immigrants. I mean, would he have their names? No, he would not. He would have some kind of specification, right? And then, so what would happen is what he's trying to do is he's trying to keep all these illegals in the country. And he's trying to throw a curveball at Tom Homan and all those who are basically deporting the criminals. He would keep all of these. How many murderers are there? Like 13,000 murderers that are illegal aliens that are in the United States. He wants to keep the murderers in America. Are you kidding me? I don't think that would stand the test at all of legal challenge. I mean, somebody might legally challenge it. But what they're trying to do, though, is he might just do it. I don't know. He's that ungrounded right now. But what would happen is this. Anybody who is arrested for deportation would then claim that they have been pardoned for the crime of illegally entering the United States. Now, the Constitution does grant the president pardon power, asterisk. There is a long-standing process for that. I don't think it would stand the scrutiny. And I think what would happen is very early on, as they deport some of these people, there would be some kind of legal challenge. It might work in California, for instance, but in most states, it just wouldn't happen at all. Okay, let's go to this. I want to get this Trump clip in. What is the theme of his second inaugural going to be? It's going to be unity. Here we go, clip 12.
Let me ask you, sir, as you think about your inauguration, I remember your first inaugural address, you talked about American carnage. Have you thought about your message for your second inaugural address?
I have.
Can you give us a preview?
We're going to have a message that will make you happy, unity. It's going to be a message of unity. And again, I think success brings unity. And I've experienced that. I've experienced it in my first term. As I said, we're going to be talking about unity. We're going to be talking about success, making our country safe, keeping people that shouldn't be in our country out. We have to do that. I know it doesn't sound nice, but we have to do that. But basically, it's going to be about bringing our country together.
I like that, right? Now, just in terms of the shrill condescension of Kirsten Walker, that doesn't play well at all. So here's Trump. He's been campaigning for president for 9 years. He's delivered a first inaugural address in January of 2017. Then subsequently, he quote lost a rigged election back in 2020, and then he spent all this time running again for re-election and won. Have you thought about what you're going to talk about in your second inaugural? Kristen, come on. And he didn't say, I got to give him credit. Yes, I have. No, he didn't say, wow, what a stupid question. He dealt with it straight up. I thought it was fantastic. All right. When we come back, Scott Golden, chairman of the Republican Party here in Tennessee, will be our guest on our Newsmaker line, not our Zoom line, our Newsmaker line. Back after this, I'm Michael Patrick Leahy.
Hey there, this is Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of The Glock Store. As a proud sponsor of this show, you may have heard Michael Patrick Leahy mention us a few times over the past 4 years. But today, it's me on the radio telling you how pleased we are to be associated with Michael Patrick Leahy and his dedication to the highest levels of professional journalism. Michael Patrick Leahy has been threatened with jail time in bringing the true facts about that Nashville Covenant shooting to his listening audience. Michael Patrick Leahy, you keep doing what you're doing, and we here at the Glock Store will keep sponsoring your show for the good of Nashville and the entire country. And I'm personally inviting all of your listeners to come visit and shoot at the Glock Store. It's where Michael Patrick Leahy learned to shoot a gun for the first time and where he bought his own personal Glock 19. I'm Lenny McGill, founder and CEO of the Glock Store here in Nashville, just minutes from the airports, worth the drive from anywhere, and a proud sponsor of Michael Patrick Leahy and the Tennessee Star Report.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Welcome back. We welcome to our newsmaker line a very good friend, the chairman of the Tennessee Republican Party, Scott Golden. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you, Michael. How are you doing today?
I couldn't be doing better. It's now about a little over a month since Donald Trump won a resounding victory, and since Marsha Blackburn was reelected, the entire Tennessee delegation in Congress reelected, the Tennessee General Assembly, good wins, maintained a supermajority. Gee, what have you done for me lately, Scott Golden?
And the one thing and believe me, I know we had our board meeting this weekend, and I said, I got to tell you guys, I said, there's no tougher critic of the job that we do than me. And, of course, we came up 131 votes or 128 votes short in one state house race up in Clarksville. You talk about still acid in my mouth that we didn't win that election. I mean, what I said is that we were closer, even though we're a supermajority, we were still closer to picking up seats than the Democrats were of taking any of our Republican seats. And I said, so we're going to go right back to the table and try to figure out how to keep adding to our supermajority.
Yeah, very good. So, Scott, you mentioned you had a board meeting of the
Yes, sir.
All members of the Tennessee Republican Party. What's the mood? What was the mood in that meeting?
Well, I mean, first of all, the overall general feeling is that the weight has been lifted, that the Biden-Harris administration is, less than 30, 45 days away from being a ancient memory. So, I mean, the jubilation is the mood among the committee. It really is. I mean, happy with the election results, happy with what everybody feels like is about to change in Washington. Happy, quite frankly, that it felt like common sense is going to return a little bit. That, even among some of the Democrats, you're beginning to see, maybe open borders isn't the right way to go. Maybe spending $36 trillion indefinitely is not going to be good for our health. It's a feeling of it looks like the grown-ups are about to come back in charge.
Looks like America's back.
It's kind of the feeling that you're getting. The rest of the world is kind of being put on notice that I hate to say it, but it felt like a temper tantrum over the last 4 years. And you look at
it did,
and coming to the logical conclusion of Joe Biden pardoning his son, and I should say, pardon him for what he's been accused of, but taking the unprecedented step of pardoning him for things that he hasn't been accused of over a decade.
Yeah,
just that means something. And believe me, I think that was the first round of what we're going to get coming out of this. And so for a lot of us, particularly those of us that have kind of been on the front lines for the last 8 years, 2016, we said we did a great job through 2020. And then, obviously we said, don't vote for Joe Biden. It's not going to be great. And, and then to live through the 4 years to say, well, we kind of told you so.
Mm-hmm.
And the great thing, the jubilation part, is that you kind of feel that the rest of the country is sort of saying, yeah, we sort of get what you were talking about in 2000.
Yeah.
That maybe this wasn't going to work out well for all of us.
What's the agenda for the Tennessee Republican Party for 2025?
So, so the way this process works, and as you know, I was reelected as chair.
By the way, let me just say, congratulations.
Well, thank you.
And
thank you.
I think we have a fabulous party leadership here. That's you, by the way, Scott. And you've done a great job.
We've got a great team. It's a great team all the way across. And it goes from the governor to the senators to the members of Congress, the legislatures, all of our Republican elected officials at the county level, our party elected officials. I mean, it's a big organization. And I'm just, fortunate that I get to be a part of it. And happy to help and do whatever. I think everybody knows that if you need me or whatever I can do, I will certainly do everything I can to be there. But for so it's really seasonal for us. So the first season that the Tennessee Republican Party goes through, again, our reorganization was last Saturday. In January, we go through the RNC reorganization, and as I got some of the emails over the weekend, I know that President Trump has asked Michael Whatley to stay on and serve as head of the
Good
RNC.
Move.
Great move. And then you saw that Laura Trump has decided not to stay on in her capacity at the RNC
as a vice chair, right?
So as the vice chair, co-chair is what we call it at the RNC level. But she would, I know she's got other things perhaps in her future. So
perhaps,
so we
perhaps. Yes. Rumors she might be picked by Ron DeSantis to serve as United States Senator from Florida, but we'll see how that works out.
We'll see how all of that goes. So we will be doing the RNC meeting to kind of codify those changes.
Where's the meeting going to be held this year? Where's that meeting?
In Washington. It'll be in advance of the inauguration.
Oh yeah.
So the RNC is tied up with the inauguration, all of these things. So that's sort of the next thing that I'm working on now is people that are going up from Tennessee. What can we do? And literally trying to find them hotels. The price of hotels in D.C. over that weekend
is it crazy?
It's if you can find a place for under $1,000 in the district, you're doing a good job. It is.
Are you, Scott? Are you? How many inaugural balls will there be? And is there a Tennessee inaugural ball in Washington, D.C.?
So that's what we're working on right now. So the presidential inaugural committee, what we call PIC, is they are working on their plans. That got stood up a couple weeks ago. Kelly Loeffler, who former Georgia senator that's going to be heading SBA, she's in charge of that organization. So they will be setting up the presidential balls. We are waiting for some, kind of for their timeline so that we and other states can start planning other activities around that timeline.
Right. But you are going to have a Tennessee something, right?
We will hope. We are really hoping to have something. So Sunday, traditionally, what they have done is 8 years ago they did a Welcome to Washington concert, which was kind of in the afternoon on the day before the inauguration. We don't know if they're doing that yet. So it's all these kind of time frames. Most of the hotels as you're going in are 3-night requirements. So Saturday will be the get-in day. So possibly we could pull something together for Saturday night. But, people are going to be spread across the district. So we're hoping to have everybody that's going to have a menu of options that they can buy into for different stuff that is going to be going on around.
So if our listeners want to go to an inaugural ball event, how do they get an invite to that?
To tell them best thing to do right now is go to our website, just tngop.org, and sign up. We will be splashing out everything that we've kind of locked down or participating in as we get closer to January 20th. We can also we'll have up information about the presidential inaugural committee and how to get tickets for those things. Of course, the actual swearing in itself is a congressional event. People may not realize that, but it is the joint committee on inauguration. So it is a House and Senate event, and so tickets for the actual swearing in on noon on January 20th. They can get from their members of Congress.
Oh, really?
And I know that most of our members of Congress have a link on their government website. So if you Google your member of Congress or our senators, there will be a link where you can apply for tickets. I don't know yet that they even know how many tickets they're going to get. So we still got a little bit ways of planning to do. But,
do you have your hotel reservations yet, Scott?
So we were kind of waiting to see what the RNC plan was going to do. So we've finally gotten that information. And so I know where I'm going to be for some of it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to afford where to be in.
I know.
I hear Richmond might be nice. I mean, that's going to be as far out as you could get a reasonable hotel. So
Scott Golden.
Scott. I don't have a whole lot of money to spend on it. So
Scott, thanks so much for joining us today, and again, congratulations on your reelection.
Thank you. We'll be
chairman.
in touch. We've got a great 30 days in front of us where the country's really going to come together and celebrate. So I look forward to walking through with it with you.
Thanks, Scott. Have a great trip to D.C.
Thank you, sir. Talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye-bye.
When we come back, we'll hear from Tom Zawistowski, head of We the People Convention in Ohio. What's going on up in Ohio? I'm Michael Patrick Leahy. Back after this.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
And welcome back. We're joined on our Zoom newsmaker line right now by our good friend for many years, Tom Zalistowski from Akron, Ohio. Tom, of course, is the head of the We the People convention, been a Tea Party activist for a long time. Tom, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me, and happy Monday to everyone in Tennessee.
Look, I've been happy for a month.
You bet. You bet.
How about you? Okay, so a couple things. Let's go right to the Ohio stuff first. Then I want to talk to you about Meet the Press. So here we are. J.D. Vance will be sworn in as the Vice President of the United States on January 20th, 2025. I got to get the date right? 2025. 40 days. We have 40 days to 47. And the governor of Ohio, the way it works in Ohio, the governor of Ohio appoints whoever will replace him until they have another election, which I think would be, 2026? So it's 2 years.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So where are we with that? Did DeWine kind of a rhino type? And obviously not really a MAGA fan. Where are we? Are there any developments? Every time I have you on, like once a week, you give us a report, and there doesn't seem to be. It would seem to me he would have already made a decision, but he hasn't yet. What's going on?
Yeah, there was just an article in the New York Post yesterday where they were basically saying it's really two people. It's Shane Timken or it's Vivek Ramaswamy. Well, the fact that they mentioned Vivek Ramaswamy in that article told me that article was placed politically to try to eliminate any other possibilities, because Vivek Ramaswamy is pretty damned excited about being with Elon Musk and working on Doge, and he's not going to take the Senate seat in January. So they're trying to make a binary choice between Timken and Vivek, which means they're pushing Jane Timken. And the person pushing Jane Timken is big-time political operative Bob Paduchik, who was Rob Portman's campaign manager.
Not Bob Paduchik again.
and so he's the one that's pushing and trying to eliminate any competition because he's going to make money if it's Jane Timken. Matt Dolan, the senator from Ohio senator from Cleveland, and member of the family that owns the Cleveland Guardians. He is also in the running because he ran for Senate when J.D. Vance won, and he ran when Bernie Moreno ran. But they're trying to, edge him out. And then, there were just a few other names floating around, but it looks like the fix is in for Jane Timken. And I would have to bet money right now that that's probably what's going to happen,
yeah.
Mike.
And Bob Paduchik, for those of you who aren't familiar with Bob Paduchik, he's kind of your classic political thug type guy. I mean, he's a power player, and he's not a great intellectual, but he's a power guy. And we had a few little encounters with Bob
Indeed we have.
At the Ohio Star, we wrote about, there were all sorts of financial improprieties at the Ohio Republican Party that we wrote about, and or alleged financial improprieties. Mm-hmm. And Paduchik, who he'd been involved in the 2016 Trump campaign. He claimed credit for all the successes there, but I don't think he really deserved much credit there. Tom, would you say, in 2016?
He deserved very little credit. Yeah. He really didn't do much of anything.
But he claimed it. So anyway,
yes.
Jane Timken had been the chairman of the Republican Party, and again, allegations of financial impropriety, which have never really been properly addressed. We started writing about that at the Ohio Star, and Bob Paduchik came in and he did his, I'm the big guy around here. Get out of here. Don't ask me any questions routine. We sent up the great Neil McCabe there, some of the meetings, and he threw Neil McCabe out of the meetings, and it's all kind of silly stuff. It's like.
Do you remember when he put up on the screen at the Republican State Central Committee meeting, he put a picture of me on the screen and said, this guy is the biggest enemy of the Republican Party in the state, and he's working for the Democrats.
Yeah, what a bunch of baloney. So, that's the kind of guy Paduchik is. Now, he just to let me say something nice about him.
Mm-hmm.
All right. If you want to win a political campaign in Ohio and you have lots of money, he's the guy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
and the people with lots of money like him because he does things with their money that they want done. So that's really the challenge. But, there are other people. Some people you and I know very well. You knew Mike Gibbons,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
You know Mike Gibbons?
great.
Real patriot. His son's an Air Force pilot.
Yeah.
Ran a great campaign, but couldn't get President Trump to endorse him, and instead he endorsed Vance, and then he endorsed Bernie Moreno.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be nice to see a guy like Mike Gibbons get in the mix again, because remember, you said it, a very important thing, folks. Mike DeWine's going to appoint the next senator to replace J.D. Vance, and J.D. just said in that article, I think in the New York Post, on January 21st, right? So that's when that's going to happen. But then that person has to defend in November of 2026 against Sherrod Brown, who we just beat, but who's going to be running when Trump's not on the ballot. You better have somebody really good. And I got a question. What has Jane Timken ever won as far as an elected office is concerned?
She would be
there's nothing that I know of.
Yeah, Jane Timken would be a weak candidate in 2026. She's not really accomplished much of anything. She's got family money, which is okay. Great.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Timkens are big Republican donors, big time, historically.
But didn't do a great job as chairperson of the Republican Party. Let's be kind about it, right?
Right. I like Jane. She's a nice person, but she's been kind of used by the political forces as like a filler. I mean, I don't even think she ever really wanted to be the chairman of the Republican Party. That was a setup, to cover up for some of the problems they were having.
Mm-hmm.
But this is what your listeners need to understand. Unfortunately, here we are in red Ohio, right, where Trump wins by 11%, and yet that's the least consideration. We want a real MAGA person to help get President Trump's agenda, across in the Senate. Yeah, that's not even being considered, folks, at all. It's all about money and power and control, and that's why the name Jane Timken.
Look, I think your analysis is correct. I would be surprised if he didn't pick Jane Timken. That's mm-hmm. I'm kind of on that page as well. And mm-hmm. Do you have a timeline for when he's going to make a decision?
Yeah, from what I understand, it's not going to be until after the first of the year. He's still waiting, to let this play out. I think again because there's a lot of politics going on, and you kind of want to see what all the offers are, don't you, Mike, before you decide on who you're going to choose.
Well, I told him, you got to pick Tom Zalestowski for that job.
Well, maybe I should start getting closer to Jane Timken if she's going to be the senator. At least we should have a relationship, and we do have a relationship, and we do respect each other. But she's all right here in Canton. I mean, I'm just here in Akron, so I'll have to sit down with Jane and see what we can do.
Well, thanks for that update. Now let's switch to President Trump.
Yeah.
That guy has just been doing a fabulous job since he was elected. And it'll be like 40 days until he's inaugurated. But of course, he goes to Paris, France, and dominates the world stage for the reopening of Notre Dame. Then this interview, did you watch this interview with Kirsten Welker on Meet the Press?
I did on NBC, and that was his first post-election mainstream interview. And I thought it went very well.
Yeah, my initial reaction was, I think one of the things that we proved in this election is that nobody really listens to the regime media anymore. People are listening to podcasts. People are listening to radio programs like this one. People are reading alternate media, such as the Ohio Star, the Tennessee Star, the parts of our Star News Network. But he chose, and my initial reaction was, gee, what are you doing? Why are you giving them credibility? Then I watched the interview, and I thought it was a master class in handling the press. Your thoughts, Tom Zalestowski?
I think that's what, particularly on X, the reviews were really in that vein. That this was just Trump showing how able he is to just command the stage and get his message across. And Michael, I'd ask you this. A lot of people are saying that this is kind of Trump 2.0.
Yes.
And that he's very different than he would have been if he had won re-election in 2020. That he's got a very different tone and feel to him. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that completely. And part of it is because I think the, quote, loss in 2020 has been revealed to have been basically, they cheated.
Yeah.
I think people, for any number of reasons, now it's been unified. The country is unifying around Donald Trump. It's all of these things that have happened, the debacle of the Biden maladministration, all of the awful things that they did, the failed assassination attempt on July 13th, the endorsement of Donald Trump by Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the endorsement of Donald Trump by Elon Musk, who was not a Trump guy in 2016, that's for sure, and I don't think in 2020. But did you see that little clip of that Elon Musk is putting out of his son? They call him Little X. It's a 16 million people have seen it, and it's like a 10-second clip. There's this little 3-year-old kid, and the 3-year-old kid says, "Save America, help Trump."
Help Trump.
And
so that's, but that is really encapsulates the whole situation. That is that people are getting their news from different places, and that when you saw the reaction in France, the European leaders falling all over themselves just to be in touch with France. Yeah. And look at what's going on. You just had the government of France collapse. The government of Germany collapsed like the day after the election. The woke globalists are in retreat. Trump is ascendant, and this fight against globalism, which is basically communism, is really what this is all about. And Trump is leading that fight, and it's going to be a beautiful thing because you can see he's confident, Michael. He's got the wind in his back because we won the popular vote. We won, the House, the Senate, the White House, the Electoral College. And so he's more confident, and that's a good thing because we don't want him to hold back.
Speaking of good things, I've got some breaking news right now. You ready?
Oh, okay. Yes.
New York City. Daniel Penny has been found not guilty of criminally negligent homicide in the chokehold death of George Leahy. So he's not guilty on criminally negligent homicide, and the manslaughter charges were dismissed. He's a free man today as we speak.
Did you see the thing from one of the congressmen wants to put him up for the Congressional Medal of Honor?
Okay. Yeah.
Then that's
Medal
great.
of Freedom.
And then, Medal of Freedom. And then we've got to go after Alvin Bragg. Yeah. People like Alvin Bragg have to be disbarred. They are a stain on our judicial system. And when people say, "Oh, you're looking for revenge," no, we're looking for justice.
And
this
on that
should
note,
never have been charged.
Tom Zastowski, thanks so much for joining us, and really appreciate your insights as always.
Have a great week, Michael. Good to talk with you.
Thanks. Up next, the breaking news. Daniel Penny, not guilty, a free man in New York City. Back after this.
My fellow Americans, I was this close, very close, to buying from the lumber yards. These are sick people. But I turned my head at the last second, and I saw a big, beautiful ad for D.T. McCall's. These are highly respected people. If I had not turned my head at the last second, I would have been ripped off at some lumber yard for $200 in hidden charges, and D.T. McCall & Sons are never going to do that. They'd never do that to you. These are great people. I've known them for a long time. They have great deals, and I just have to say, nobody knows deals like I do. D.T. McCall & Sons has locations in Lebanon, Carthage, Lafayette, Cookeville, and Franklin, and they have been family-owned in Middle Tennessee for over 100 years. These are tremendous people. D.T. McCall & Sons. Check out one of their stores today.
Impersonator not endorsed by Donald Trump.
Welcome back to the Michael Patrick Leahy Show. Now, here's Michael Patrick Leahy.
Welcome back. Daniel Penny, the Marine who saved the people in the subway and put Jordan Neely in a chokehold, the longtime criminal, and Jordan Neely died subsequently. The jury has returned a verdict this morning. The verdict is reflected in the headline of New York Post. Headline, Penny saved. Daniel Penny acquitted in subway chokehold death of Jordan Neely. And he was acquitted this morning of criminally negligent homicide. Remember, the first charge, the heavier charge, was manslaughter, which they were a hung jury on. And they told the judge, we can't come to a conclusion on that. And the prosecution then said, okay, let's dismiss that so they can look at the criminally negligent homicide. Instead of declaring a mistrial, the judge in the case went back and said, oh, okay, now we'll look at this second charge. He dismissed the jury on Friday. They came back in this morning at 9 o'clock Eastern time. The verdict came out at about 11:30 Eastern time. So they deliberated for just a little over 2 hours before they delivered the verdict. What does this tell you? I think the jury is sending a big signal here. They feel, I would guess that they feel what happened here is that the prosecutors, Alvin Bragg and the assistant district attorney, were trying to pull one over on them. That's what it looks like to me. A New York City councilman has said Bragg should resign in shame after Daniel Penny's acquittal. Here's some more details on this from the New York Post, which, by the way, has really some great coverage on this. A Manhattan jury has acquitted Daniel Penny of criminally negligent homicide in the death of Jordan Neely after Penny, the former Marine, placed the homeless man in a chokehold on the subway in May of 2023. Now, what this means is, since the manslaughter charge was dismissed and the criminally negligent homicide case ended up in an acquittal, I think this means that because of double jeopardy, the Manhattan district attorney will not be able to bring any other charges against Daniel Penny. But let's see some more of the details. So, New York City Councilman Joe Borelli, a Republican from Staten Island, is calling for Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg to resign. How about that? The more details on this in the acquittal, and they're kind of moving through the New York Post website to read this. This was filed 21 minutes ago, so this is hot off the presses. A Manhattan jury has cleared Daniel Penny of criminal wrongdoing in the chokehold death of Jordan Neely on a crowded subway, a caught-on-video killing that sparked fierce debate over the city's mental health system and crime underground. The panelists acquitted Penny of criminally negligent homicide, which could have put him behind bars for up to 4 years, in Neely's chokehold death aboard a crowded uptown subway train in May of 2023. Manslaughter, the top charge against Penny. Let's get that name right. Daniel Penny, not Perry, was tossed on Friday after jurors twice said they couldn't reach a unanimous verdict. And you see what they were doing here. The manslaughter charge had like a 10 to 15 year sentence. And the lesser charge was criminally negligent homicide. Now, what's interesting about this, they could not, think about this, they could not reach a decision on the more serious charges. That means that on the more serious charge, at least one of the 12 jurors was ready to vote to convict. And yet on the lesser charge, they rendered a unanimous verdict. What does that tell you? It tells you a little bit about the dynamics that were going on inside that jury. Because I'm just speculating here right now. At least one juror over the weekend changed his mind about this. Why did that one juror, at least one juror, change his mind? Well, I think the reason is, I think they felt they were being manipulated by the district attorney and the judge. Also, there was an element of fairness in this because Daniel Penny's attorneys had said, outside of the hearing of the jury, said, Your Honor, you're dismissing the most serious charge. You're asking the jury to decide on the less serious charge. But we may have presented a different defense if the only charge had been the less serious criminally negligent homicide. That is something that I think may have played a role in all this. This is very good news for the rule of law in America. It's very bad news for Alvin Bragg. And District Attorney Bragg, I'm telling you what, don't destroy any documents. Pam Bondi, the new Attorney General, is going to come at you and looking at whether you did a false prosecution under the color of law. Yeah, I think the one who might be in the Gray Bar Hotel, it's not going to be Daniel Penny. It could be Alvin Bragg. We'll be back with more. Crom Carmichael joins us after this.